Terima kasih Puan Pengacara Majlis. Yang berhormat Dato' Ahmad Douglas Sugah Andambas, Deputy Premier Sarawak, and Second Minister for Finance and New Economy, Minister for Infrastructure and Port Development, Honorable Dato' Amal Professor Dr. Sim Kui Hian, Deputy Premier, Minister for Public Health, Housing and Local Government, Honorable Tan Sri Dato' Ammar Haji Muhammad Asfia bin Awang Nasa, Speaker of Sarawak State Legislative Assembly, Yang Berhormat Rakan-rakan Menteri, Yang Berhormat Dato' Ammar Haji Muhammad Abu Bakar, State Secretary, Yang Berhormat Timbalan Menteri, Yang berbahagia Mustaq Pura Sanggi, Lead Economist for Malaysia, World Bank, ahli-ahli yang berhormat, tuan-tuan dan puan-puan yang saya hormati sekalian. Today, we mark an important milestone in Sarawak's climate journey with the launch of the Subnational Climate Change Institutional Assessment for Sarawak and Sabah. This is more than the launch of a report. It is a statement of intent about how we govern, how we invest, and how we safeguard our future in the face of climate change. Let me begin by expressing my sincere appreciation to the World Bank, to our colleagues from Sabah, and also Peninsular Malaysia, and to our partners in the federal government, and to all Sarawak agencies involved in this study. Particularly, of course, our Ministry of Energy and Environmental Sustainability Sarawak for its leadership and coordination. This has truly been a collective effort, reflecting our shared commitment to strengthening climate governance across Malaysia. It reflects a shared understanding that climate action cannot be delivered by one institution alone. It requires partnership, trust, and coordination across boundaries. This report is not just another document to be placed on a shelf. Indeed, it is a roadmap for where we need to go. It is a mirror that helps us see clearly where we stand. And more importantly, it is a call to act decisively and together. Sarawak's development vision. Ladies and gentlemen, Sarawak's development trajectory is guided by our post-COVID-19 development strategy 2030, or as you know, PCDS 2030. Our goal is clear: to become a high-income, inclusive, and sustainable economy by the end of this decade. At the heart of this strategy is a simple but fundamental principle. Economic growth must go hand in hand with environmental stewardship and long-term resilience. Climate action is therefore not a parallel agenda. It is embedded with our broader economic transformation, shaping how we plan infrastructure, how we manage natural resources, how we develop industries, and protect livelihoods. Climate change, from risk to economic reality. Climate change is no longer an abstract or distant concern. The science is clear. The impacts are real, and the costs of inaction are rising. Recent analyses have shown that climate change poses material risk to Malaysia's economic growth, fiscal stability, and social well-being. Floods, landslides, and extreme weather events are already disrupting communities, damaging infrastructure, and placing increasing pressure on public finances. For Sarawak and Sabah, some call it Borneo Block, states endowed with vast forests, rich biodiversity, and carbon-rich landscapes, we sit at the center of Malaysia's climate narrative. We are part of the national emission profile, but more importantly, we are also central to the solution. Through responsible land management, forest stewardship, and leadership in the energy transition, Borneo plays a critical role in Malaysia's climate future. How we govern land, how we govern natural resources and development will significantly shape Malaysia's climate outcomes. For Sarawak, strengthening this institutional foundation is a strategic investment in stability, competitiveness, and long-term prosperity. The subnational CCIA, I welcome the subnational climate change institutional assessment, or in short, CCIA's recognition of the meaningful progress Sarawak has achieved. It affirms our ambition and the investment and policy reforms already underway, while providing thoughtful guidance on how our institutional framework can be further strengthened to ensure effective delivery and enduring impact. Importantly, the report does not focus only on identifying challenges. It provides a structured reform roadmap with actionable recommendations across the short, medium, and longer term, grounded in operational realities. I also value the inclusion of international experiences. These examples show how other jurisdictions facing similar governance and development challenges have strengthened their climate institutions. Such perspectives are useful as reference points while we continue to chart Sarawak's own pathway. For Sarawak, strengthening this institutional foundation is not merely administrative reform. It is a strategic investment in stability, competitiveness, and long-term prosperity. Ultimately, strong institutions ensure continuity. They help translate political commitment into sustained action regardless of economic cycles or changing circumstances. Why institutions matter? Ladies and gentlemen, one of the strongest messages from the subnational CCIA is simple but powerful. Enduring climate solutions are built on strong institutions. Targets alone are not enough. Ambition without institutional clarity leads to fragmentation. Climate action works only when institutions are equipped to connect the dots, that is, aligning sectors, coordinating across levels of government, and matching planning with financing. They must operate with clear mandates and firm legal authority. They must monitor progress transparently, and they must be capable of managing fiscal and environmental risk in an increasingly uncertain climate landscape. Ladies and gentlemen, under the Federal Constitution and the Malaysia Agreement 1963, Sarawak has significant authority over land, forestry, marine, and natural resources. This institutional reality is not a complication. It is a strength if designed and coordinated properly. Effective climate governance in Malaysia must recognize the roles and responsibilities of Sabah and Sarawak, while ensuring national coherence. This is not about drawing boundaries. It is about building bridges so that federal ambition and state implementation reinforce one another. Sarawak remains committed to constructive engagement with the federal government and with Sabah, ensuring policy alignment, investment coordination, and shared learning so that climate action benefits Malaysia as a whole. Strong states strengthen the federation, and coordinated governance strengthens national resilience. Ladies and gentlemen, carbon pricing as an example of institutional clarity. Allow me to illustrate this with one example, that is carbon pricing. Sarawak's carbon levy framework is not being developed in isolation. It is being carefully designed, informed by international best practices and strategic insight from the World Bank. We understand that carbon pricing is a policy instrument. It sends market signal, it shapes investment decision, and it accelerates the transition to lower carbon pathways. But for it to work, it must be institutionally sound, supported by clear legal authority, transparent governance, credible monitoring and verification system, and alignment with national policies. This drives home the point that climate action requires coordination across federal, state, and local governments. It requires clear mandates. It requires fiscal tools. It requires legislative authority. It requires alignment. In doing so, Sarawak demonstrates that state-level autonomy, when anchored in institutional clarity, collaboration, and legal parameters, can strengthen collective climate action. Our objective is not fragmentation. Our objective is coherence, where innovation at the state level strengthens Malaysia's overall climate architecture. Forests, nature, and fiscal sustainability. Another practical example is this. Sabah and Sarawak forests are not only biodiversity treasures, they are climate assets of global significance. And they sit squarely within state jurisdiction. This is precisely why institutional arrangements matter. Decision on land use, conservation, enforcement, and revenue have long-term fiscal and environmental consequences. Yet states have historically relied on natural resource revenues to fund development. The challenge before us is how to balance fiscal sustainability with environmental stewardship. Institutional reform must therefore address how responsibilities, incentive, and financing are aligned. Climate finance, carbon markets, ecological fiscal transfers, and sustainable revenue models must support states that protect nature. Otherwise, conservation becomes a financial burden rather than an opportunity. Sarawak believes that environmental protection must generate value, not only costs. And this value must be underpinned by clear, credible, and well-coordinated institutions. Partnership with the World Bank. Our partnership with the World Bank has been constructive, rigorous, and forward-looking. Beyond climate governance, our collaboration extends into areas such as state-owned enterprise reform, SOE reform, public financial management, and result-based budgeting. These efforts strengthen transparency, efficiency, and fiscal stewardship. The Subnational CCIA builds naturally on this foundation. Strong economic governance and strong climate governance are mutually reinforcing. In line with this commitment, the Sarawak government has established the Sarawak Climate and Energy Diplomacy Unit to lead our regional and international engagements on climate, carbon, and energy transition, supported technically by the Sarawak Climate Change Center. Its functions include representing Sarawak in global climate forums, advising on major projects and agreements, integrating climate and energy consideration into state planning, and consolidating green resources and technologies to strengthen Sarawak's sustainable development and economic competitiveness. Ladies and gentlemen, looking ahead, the CCIA serves as a practical roadmap offering actionable recommendations across the short, medium, and long term, grounded firmly in operational realities rather than abstract theory. We welcome its finding in a constructive and forward-looking spirit because ultimately strong institutions provide continuity. They ensure that climate action is not dependent on political cycles or personalities, but translated into sustained and measurable progress. Climate change is often described as a crisis, but it is also an inflection point. It compels us to modernize institutions, align fiscal system with environmental realities, build new industries, protect our natural heritage, and uplift our people. Ladies and gentlemen, today we are strengthening the foundation of Sarawak's future. Because in the end, climate leadership is not measured by words alone. It is measured by institutions that endure, systems that deliver, and decisions that protect the next generation. Sarawak chooses to lead responsibly, confidently, and sustainably. Thank you very much.